Story says Crassus died with molten gold poured down his throat. His enemies did it on purpose, as a mockery, because in life, he wanted gold more than anything else in the world. No one can say if it's true, but every legend needs a villain rich enough to deserve one. His name was Marcus Licinius Crassus. He was the richest man in Rome, maybe the richest man in all of history. He funded Caesar, the man who would one day end the Republic. He crushed Spartacus and his army of escaped slaves, and he set fire to half of Rome just to buy it cheap. This is the story of the man who thought money could buy everything. He was almost right. Crassus was born around 115 BC. His family was respected, but not extraordinary. Rome was tearing itself apart. Civil war raged between two warlords, Marius and Cinna. Crassus's family lost almost everything. He had to start from nothing. A new strongman rose, Sulla. Crassus chose his side, and he chose well. Sulla won the civil war. Then he published a list. Anyone on it could be killed, legally. Their property was seized and sold for almost nothing. Crassus bought it all. Houses, land, farms. He paid a fraction of their true value. His enemies called it theft with a receipt. Crassus called it business. Within a few years, the boy who lost everything owned more than most of Rome combined. This was only the beginning. Rome was a fire trap. Nearly 1 million people lived in wooden buildings, 6 or 7 stories tall. Fires broke out constantly. Crassus saw an opportunity. He built his own fire brigade. 500 slaves, trained as firefighters, architects, and builders. When a fire broke out, his men rushed to the scene. But they didn't put out the flames. Not yet. First, Crassus made an offer. Sell me your burning building, right now, for a fraction of its worth. Take it, or watch it burn. Most owners sold. Only then did his men lift a single bucket of water. Crassus rebuilt what he bought, using his own slaves as labor. Then he rented it out, or sold it again, for far more. Street by street, block by block, a large part of Rome came under his control. He added silver mines to his portfolio. He traded in slaves. He lent money to senators without interest, but he never forgot who owed him. He used to say that no man could truly call himself rich unless he could afford to raise his own private army. Soon he could. In 73 BC, a gladiator named Spartacus escaped a training school in Capua. Thousands of slaves joined him. His army grew to tens of thousands. He defeated Roman force after Roman force. Rome panicked, and the Senate turned to Crassus. He raised 8 legions and paid for much of it from his own pocket. When 2 of his own cohorts fled from battle, Crassus brought back an old punishment: decimation. 1 in every 10 men was beaten to death by his own comrades. His message was clear. Losing to Spartacus was one thing, running from him was worse. Crassus trapped Spartacus's army near the Silarus River, behind a massive wall and trench. Spartacus knew what was coming. Before the final battle, he killed his own horse in front of his men. "If we win," he said, "I will have many fine Roman horses. If we lose, I will not need one." Then he charged straight at Crassus, trying to kill him personally. He never made it. Spartacus fell somewhere in the chaos. His body was never identified. "6,000 rebels survived the battle. Crassus did not execute them quietly. He had them nailed to crosses, one after another, along the Appian Way. The road stretched over 120 miles from Capua to the gates of Rome. Every traveler on that road saw the same message for weeks. This is what happens to slaves who dream of freedom. It was not justice, it was theater. And Crassus wanted an audience. But there was a problem. While Crassus finished off Spartacus's main army, another general, Pompey, intercepted the survivors fleeing north. Pompey wrote to the Senate, claiming that he, not Crassus, had truly ended the war. Rome believed him. Crassus had done the hard, bloody work. Pompey took the glory. From that day on, Crassus wanted something money could not buy, the kind of respect that only a battlefield victory could bring. That hunger would follow him for the rest of his life. Years later, a young politician came to Crassus for help. His name was Julius Caesar. Caesar was talented, ambitious, and deep in debt. Crassus paid it off without charging interest. In return, he expected loyalty and influence. It worked. Caesar rose quickly through Roman politics, backed quietly by Crassus's fortune the entire way. Crassus had learned something important. He could not buy military glory, but he could buy the men who would one day earn it for him. In 60 BC, Crassus, Caesar, and Pompey made a deal. Together, they formed an unofficial alliance, later called the First Triumvirate. 3 men, 1 private agreement, and the entire Roman Republic bent to their will. The Senate was sidelined. Elections were decided in advance. Provinces were handed out among friends. It was not a coup. On paper, everything was legal. In practice, 3 men now owned Rome. And one of them, Crassus, had bought his way into their company. By now, Crassus's fortune was almost impossible to measure. Ancient writers estimated it at around 200 million sesterces, roughly equal to Rome's entire yearly state budget. Some called him the richest man in history, adjusted for his era. His wealth came from real estate, silver mines, slave trading, and quiet loans to half the Senate. He hosted banquets for the entire population of Rome, at his own expense. He was generous with strangers and merciless with debtors. Everyone in Rome owed him something. That was exactly how he wanted it. Crassus had money. He had influence. He had fear and respect from nearly everyone. What he did not have was a great military victory, the kind that made Caesar and Pompey legends. He was over 60 years old, and it still ate at him. In 55 BC, he arranged to become governor of Syria. It was one of Rome's richest provinces. But Crassus did not want more money. He wanted a war. Just across the border lay the Parthian Empire, and Crassus decided it would give him what gold never could. Crassus invaded Parthia without the Senate's approval. An allied king warned him to take the safer route through the mountains. Crassus refused. He marched his legions straight across the open desert instead. Nearly 50,000 men followed him into the heat and dust. He believed Roman discipline would crush any enemy. He had never faced an army like the one waiting for him. Near a town called Carrhae, his scouts reported dust clouds on the horizon. Crassus expected an ordinary battle. What came out of that dust was something else entirely. 10,000 Parthian horsemen surrounded the Roman formation, armored cataphracts and mounted archers who fired even while retreating. Crassus ordered his men into a tight defensive square. It became a trap. The Parthians never came close enough for a sword fight. They simply kept shooting, wave after wave, resupplied by camels loaded with arrows. Roman shields offered little protection. Men fell by the thousands, unable to reach a single enemy. Crassus had planned for a war. He had not planned for this. Crassus sent his own son, Publius, with 6,000 men to break the encirclement. The Parthians crushed them. Publius died on the field. His head was cut off, raised on a spear, and carried within sight of his father. The Parthians mocked Crassus, saying a coward like him could never have fathered such a brave son. Crassus could not speak. He could not lead. His army, what remained of it, began a desperate retreat toward the town of Carrhae. The following day, the Parthian commander Serena offered peace talks. Crassus did not trust him, but his own soldiers, exhausted and terrified, threatened to mutiny if he refused. Crassus agreed to meet. What happened next is disputed, even by ancient historians. Some say a struggle broke out. Some say it was a trap from the very beginning. Either way, Crassus never returned from that meeting. Neither did most of the men who went with him. 20,000 Roman soldiers died at Carrhae. 10,000 more were taken prisoner and never came home. It remains one of the worst defeats in Roman history. With Crassus gone, the alliance that held Caesar and Pompey together collapsed. Within 4 years, they went to war against each other. Caesar won. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was murdered. The republic that Crassus had helped control never recovered. As for Crassus himself, later writers told a darker story. That the Parthians poured molten gold down his throat, mocking the greed that had defined his entire life. Most historians now believe this never happened, and that the tale grew over time, long after his death. True or not, it became his legend,